want some.
Hey, what's up guys? It's great to see you all again, and if you're new here, I'm Patrick and this is where I ramble about tech and other stuff. So today we'll be having a look at the Ticwatch Pro 3. There's an LTE version as well, but today we're looking at the GPS watch. We'll be talking about looks, connectivity, functionality, fitness, battery life, music, and calls before we get to the conclusion. So let's start with the watch's physical appearance. I think the size is just right, big but not too big. The watch bands are genius. They look like leather, but they're made out of a stretchy kind of silicone, so you can definitely take this into the water. Although the stitching seems to be regular fabric, so I don't know how well that will hold up over time when it gets wet frequently. The watch band is attached with a quick release system, which makes it super easy to swap it out for a different one. Charging works well, but it comes with a proprietary charger and I really don't like that. I don't need more cables in my life, plus if this breaks, and it will break eventually, it's gonna be a hassle to replace. At least wireless charging could have been included. I love the tactile buttons, although I do prefer the little scrolling crown on the Apple Watch or the big crown on the Galaxy Watch. But the screen is large enough to operate most things via touch. The screen is really nifty because there's basically two screens, one LCD which is super low in power consumption and therefore it is on all the time. And then there is of course the beautiful crispy bright AMOLED display. Normally it comes on when you raise your wrist or press a button, but there is also an always on option. Needless to say, this will drain the battery much quicker. On the back side we have the sensors for measuring heart rate and blood oxygen and the connectors for the charger. Connecting the watch to an iPhone can be challenging. You have to make sure not to connect the watch from the iPhone's Bluetooth menu, but to use the app and follow all the instructions, otherwise you're gonna run into issues. I had to try a few times before I got it to work as the watch kept telling me it failed to connect. Once connected though, everything works just fine, except a few core features which I will talk about more later. However, what is more annoying is that the watch decided to lose connection to the phone one day and it was simply impossible to re-establish the connection. And ultimately, I had no choice but to go into the watch's settings menu, go to system and tap disconnect and reset. Obviously, that's not a fun experience because that will put you right back to the factory settings, which means you will lose your installed watch faces and all other personalized things. You'll just have to start from scratch. Alright, so let's talk about functionality. So right out of the gate, I can really tell that wearOS has improved. I've owned a Samsung Galaxy Watch in the past, and wearOS definitely feels like a more mature operating system now. Everything looks really smooth on the crisp AMOLED display. You can change the watch face by simply long pressing the screen and swiping. You can add more watch faces. Some of the watch faces allow you to further customize them so you can have it show the metrics that are most relevant to you. A swipe to the right reveals Google Assistant, swipe down for the settings menu, swipe up to see your notifications, and swipe left to see what Mobvoi calls tiles. They're basically widgets. I do like the tiles function a lot, and it is customizable, but unfortunately there are not that many other tiles to choose from. The Google Play Store offers a solid selection of apps, and Google Assistant works very well. I'm a big fan of Google Assistant, I don't like Siri at all, and Alexa isn't really that popular here in Europe, so in that respect, a Google-driven watch is great for me. This also helps with dictation, which is very important because that is how I'll search for things and reply to messages. Needless to say, that finger typing on a tiny screen like that is super annoying, even with small hands like mine. Speaking of messages, I receive most notifications from the apps on my phone on the Ticwatch without any problems. But to reply to these messages, you need to have the companion app installed on your watch as well. And of course, not all apps are available on wearOS, which means that you will still have to go into your phone sometimes to reply. For instance, I have downloaded Telegram on the watch and I can read and reply to messages pretty easily. But WhatsApp, which I actually use more often, isn't available on the watch, so I can only read messages as they come in from my phone, and I've noticed that when I get a longer message, it will not show the entire thing, so you will see the first part of it, but you will have to go into your phone to read the full thing, which is not ideal. The audio recorder works well. The microphones in the watch are not bad, and you can even listen to your recording straight from the watch. Of course, this is not going to sound great, but that is to be expected from a tiny speaker like that. And of course, you can listen to it on your phone as the recordings are accessible from the Mobvoi app. you can send the recordings from your phone to your computer, but when I do that, for instance via AirDrop, it doesn't send a simple MP3, but it rather sends you to a URL where you can listen to the recordings. Another very useful app is Find My Phone, which will just make your phone start ringing very loudly, even when the sound is turned off. I also like that my calendar is synced to the watch. The downside of the calendar app is that it seems to be read-only. I can't seem to add an entry, which is a shame because I often think of something on the move and it would be nice to be able to just add it via speech. So let's talk about fitness. Scrolling through the pre-installed apps on the watch, you can tell that Mobvoi intended this to be primarily a fitness watch. You can choose between a selection of Mobvoi's native apps, Tick Exercise, Tick Pulse, Tick Sleep, and so on, or you can just use Google's Fit apps. Personally, I find that the Mobvoi apps actually work quite well. The heart rate sensor seems to be quite accurate, and it communicates well with the app. I'm not that interested in oxygen levels and all the other fancy stuff, but what is important to me is the sleep tracker. I sleep a very short amount of time every night, and so the quality of my sleep is very important to me. If I notice I'm not sleeping well, it really helps me to see when I was awake and what may have caused it so I can work on that. The sleep tracker on the Ticwatch records all the information I need, which I can then view on my phone in greater detail. I can see when I was awake and it categorizes my sleep state into REM sleep, light sleep, and deep sleep. And I can also see what my heart rate was at any given time that night. This is much better than the sleep app on my Apple Watch SE, which only gives me very basic information of when I was awake and when I was asleep. Having said that, I'm not overly impressed with the Tick Exercise app. It works fine, but I can't really share the information to any of the fitness apps I use, like Runkeeper. Sadly, Runkeeper is not available on the Google Play Store on the watch itself, and the only real alternative is Strava, which works well on a basic level. So if you like using Runkeeper, you're out of luck. The battery life on this watch is great. Mobvoi claims up to 3 days in smart mode and 72 days in essential mode. From my personal experience, the Ticwatch can easily go 2 days and still have a bit of juice left. And that is significantly better than my Apple Watch SE, which lasts about a day at best. One major drawback for me is music. Despite having 8 GB of local storage, there is no way to download or store music to listen offline. You can download Spotify from the Google Play Store on the watch, but that's not much more than a glorified remote. Now, I don't know if this is any different on the cellular version of the watch, but bearing in mind that this is the GPS-only version, I can't listen to music without having my phone with me. Maybe there are solutions for Android users, but using the watch with the iPhone, there doesn't seem to be a solution for offline listening. And this is of course very unfortunate. Another big one for me is that the watch has the option to make and accept phone calls, but sadly this does not work with the iPhone. You can ask the watch to make a call, and it will try, and you will get a prompt to enable this on your iPhone, but it doesn't work. I verified this with Mobvoi, who have confirmed that this is indeed not possible with the iPhone. Just keep in mind that this is the GPS version and that the cellular version might work just fine making calls autonomously. So, what is my conclusion of the Ticwatch? I believe the Ticwatch Pro 3 is an excellent piece of technology. It's got a beautiful big AMOLED display, wearOS works nicely now, and the Tick apps work very well with the watch. Assuming all of the functionality works flawlessly in combination with an Android phone, I do believe the Ticwatch is a very strong contender in the Android watch market space. However, would I recommend it for iPhone users? No. What makes a great smartwatch for me is autonomy. I want to be able to leave my phone at home when I go for a run. I use an iPhone 12 Pro Max. It's a hefty phone. I don't want to be carrying it around on my runs. The Ticwatch doesn't allow calls. It doesn't have the option to play offline music. It does track runs via GPS, but you can't share that data with all running apps, and the selection of running apps in the Play Store is limited. And considering all of these things, the $300 price tag becomes a bit steep. The same money buys me a cellular version of the latest Apple Watch SE, which can do all of the things I just described without any issues. It tracks your runs, you can make calls, and you can even stream music from Spotify straight from the watch to your headphones. So if you're an Android user, chances are you will really like what the Ticwatch 3 Pro has to offer. But if you're on an iPhone, you're better off sticking with an Apple Watch. Alright, that's it for today, guys. I hope this video was useful to you. Thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you loved it, and see you in the next one.